the orientation was wrong, so I've started a new live. So if you're coming from the old live, then this is the one that you're meant to watch. The other one I will cut off so that it's not live anymore. But yeah, so I'm just waiting for my phone to update so that I can click onto the live. So we're back. So today we're going to be buttercreaming a cake. So it's going to be a textured buttercream cake. So I've got plain white icing which needs to go on it. Then I've got blue and red buttercream, and it's textured is basically where you get bits of buttercream and smudge them on the side of the cake. So that's what we're going to be doing, and it's a very simple cake because they don't like sprinkles, and it's got no chocolate on it, so it's literally just buttercream detail. I'm going to put a couple of sprinkles, but I'm going to put these big ones on it so that it just gives it a little something. I might not need them, but I'm thinking that I'm going to put them on there so there's a little bit of something, and then they can just pick them off if they don't like them, because otherwise it will be very, very plain. But it's going to be quite a simple one. It's probably going to be quite quick. But yeah, so hello to everyone that's joining. If you came from the other live, that was the wrong orientation as usual. I planned this and everything. I had the live literally scheduled. I did all the tags and everything, but we had to completely scrap that and do another one because the orientation was wrong for some reason. I don't know why. But I have my coffee, and yeah, it's probably going to be like an hour to 2 hours long today. Not crazy long, because it's a very simple cake we're doing. Hi Sammy, I've always wanted to order from you. Oh, thank you. So yeah, I'm wearing the merch today. I'm just waiting for a few more people to join before we get started. I don't want anyone to miss anything, even though they can go back and watch it. If you're watching this later on, then be sure to watch the whole thing and you'll see the whole cake being decorated. I have got some brownies which I need to decorate, but I'm not sure if I'll decorate them on the live or not. They're going with the cake tomorrow, so we'll see. But once a few more people have joined, we'll get started decorating. So if anyone new is joining, we're doing a blue and red textured buttercream cake, and there'll be a bit of downtime in between the white base coat and then when I'm layering on the actual colours, where it will be going in the fridge, so then we can answer questions there. So yeah, you can either ask your questions throughout, or you can wait until we have little breaks and then I'll answer them there. So I'm going to get the cake out of the fridge, and we're going to start with the base coat, which is this creamy white, and we're just going to slap that on, and then that'll be going in the fridge. And then once we've done that, we have baby blue and red. The red is actually developed quite well. The colours I use before we get into it, in case anyone's wondering, so I use the Colour Mill Royal Blue, and I use a tiny bit of this because I didn't need it that dark. And then for the red, I use Colour Splash Red with a tiny bit of strawberry and then a tiny bit of black, just to get it a bit darker. Those two colours, the strawberry and the red, are so good because they're not pinky toned, whereas quite a few other colourings that I've used, they turn the icing pink, and as soon as you've done that, it's just gone and you have to start again. So those two make it actually red. It's just a very pale red, and then you add a bit of the black, shove it in the fridge, and once it's been in the fridge, it's been in there for half an hour. Now it's really dark and it's all nice, so it's perfect for what we're doing. Hi Daniel, happy Friday. I know, I'm so glad it's Friday. Tomorrow I'm going to the pub. I haven't been to the pub since everything opened, so I'm looking forward to that. Right, we're going to get the cake out of the fridge. So it's got a nice thick layout of crumb coat. It's a little bit messy as usual because it's a 4-inch cake. I'm going to pan you down so that you'll be able to see a bit better. But yeah, usually with my 4-inch cakes I always say that the crumb coat is going to be a bit messy just because you want them to not wobble. So in order to get them to not wobble, you have to do it a bit thicker. So there you go. And this is our cake. So we're going to start by just layering on the white as so, and I think I'm going to put it in a piping bag just because I prefer that. So I'm going to get a disposable piping bag and some gloves. So we have our gloves, and if anyone's wondering, I'm wearing the Chocolate Lover merch, and this is the hoodie So yeah, I'm wearing this today. I've also got the top on underneath, but it was too cold. And if you wonder, you might hear my parents coming in and out because they're doing stuff in the garden. So that's why I needed a jumper, because it's a bit cold. I'm learning so much from your decorating your cakes and making your brownies. Oh, thank you. I haven't been on live in a little while, but what I'm going to do is uploads are going to be on Tuesday, Friday and Sunday. Sundays is going to be a podcast. Friday will be a normal video unless I'm going live. If I'm going live, then that will replace it, like today. So yeah, the Sunday video is now being replaced with a podcast. So yeah, there won't be any more on a Sunday. Right, I'm going to get a bag. So these are the piping bags I use. They're giant and they're from Amazon. I get a lot of questions about that. So yeah, I just ordered them off Amazon. They're about $7.99, I think. And they're really, really good. They're like industrial ones, so they don't split, because I've had that happen a couple of times and it drove me mental because it's really hard to fix. So yeah, they're industrial, so they're nice and thick. Just put your hand in there, drag it out like so. We don't need a nozzle on it because we're just piping it around the cake. And then I'm just gonna start taking my buttercream and shoving it in there. I'm having so much trouble finding a recipe I'm 100% happy with / confident with. I'm 100% vegan bakery. So what kind of recipe are you looking for? Do you just mean in general or all of your recipes? Right, so we've got most of that in there. So I'm starting a cupcake and brownie business soon. Love the first podcast episode, glad it's available on YouTube. Yeah, I know, I wanted to do it on YouTube and Spotify just because I know that, one, I get a lot of traffic on YouTube, whereas people might not even find me on Spotify. So I thought I'd put it on YouTube so that people don't miss out, because I thought anyone that watches my YouTube videos might just not know when it's coming onto Spotify. That way it will notify all my subscribers that are hitting the bell, and then they'll know when it's going up. So we're just gonna, as usual, pipe this the whole way round. My lead is getting caught, so we need to move that. I've got about 1,000 chargers here because all of my devices died. Right. In regards to the recipe issues, I found that I only had to try recipes once or twice. It is difficult with vegan bakes. I had to definitely try things like brownies a couple more times because I found that they were harder to master. But you can also tell with vegan bakes, you have to really kind of analyse the ingredients before you even try a recipe, because there were some where I would look at the ingredients and I could tell straight off the bat that there was way too much oil in it, or there was way too much like soy milk, for example, and I just knew that they weren't going to cook. Especially with like cakes, you can tell because they aren't going to rise if they're too runny, and the mixes were just so oily and runny that they just wouldn't rise. So yeah, it depends, but I would definitely have a look through each of the ingredients before you make something, and also check the reviews, because usually you don't get many good reviews unless it's something that's easy to recreate. If people make it and it turns out badly, they're going to write a bad review on it. So I always look through all the reviews on recipes, because then you can find out whether it's going to be a difficult one to master or whether people say it's an easy recipe to recreate. So it really just depends, but I find that all of my recipes never took me more than 2 goes to get right. I find chocolate flavours are a lot easier to get right. I am the opposite. So like vegan lemon cake took me ages, because that's a wedding cake flavour that I do, and that took me ages to get right. But things like Victoria Sponge and double chocolate were really easy for me, and like brownies I found quite easy. With treat boxes, would you work out each product individually? Because what if you send 2 brownies but the other 4 aren't bought? Is that why people only send them monthly? Yeah, that's why a lot of people do treat boxes. They either have to do them in bulk, so you need a lot of people to be buying them in order to make good money, or they split their recipes. So I have split my recipe so that I can make 3 cupcakes if I wanted to. So it means if someone only orders 2, then I'm only wasting 1, in which case I'll usually eat it. But I will do minimums of things, so like cupcakes, brownies. I can do a tray of brownies, which is like one of my postal trays, and I can get 2 big brownies out of that, and then I can just eat the offcuts. So that's why I do a minimum of 2, because otherwise you end up wasting so much. I'm just going to get a scraper. So I'm just using the Finch Bakery ones. I'm not actually using the pattern side, I'm just using the flat side. And we're just scraping all the way around. I really want to do mixed poster boxes, but I want to get a good set of products in there first, because I don't want it to be like mixed brownies, which I already do. I want it to be like cookie bars, blondies, brownies, and then the little, like, I really want to do a rocky road, which I'm currently working on. So yeah, I'm waiting to do my mixed treat boxes because I want quite a few different products in. I'm hoping that I can trial out cookies next week because I've got some time. So there'll be postals. What size cakes would be a good size for a birthday cake or any cake? I don't want to make something that's too less or too much. It depends how many people. So this cake, which is a 4-inch, I would say that you can get 10 portions out of it generously. And most people will order it for even less than 10 people. But if you're being like extra generous, because if you're being extra like frugal, sorry, you can cut it in half this way. So you could get, say, maybe 8 portions out it that way, and then you could cut it in half and get 16, but most people don't want slices that small. So it depends what sizing of the slices you want, whether you want them generous or not. But I would say most birthday cakes I do 6-inch, unless someone particularly asks for more, but 6-inch is my most popular for cakes. Would you ever consider making croissants? If I'm honest, I don't like to do too many things, and that would probably be more of a pastry chef rather than a baker. So I probably wouldn't, just because I feel like I'd leave that to the pastry chefs and I would stick to my cakes. Miss Cupcake has a vegan recipe book. The recipes are foolproof for beginners, and with experience you can adapt and evolve the recipes. Defo recommend. Ooh, okay. I really want some vegan cookies, because I want to do cookie sandwiches, because I had one the other day. If anyone follows me on Instagram, you might have seen. Or maybe today, I think I posted it on there today, but I had this cookie sandwich, which is 2 cookies and then they put buttercream in the middle. It was amazing. And I had someone say, like, you should do these, and if they're vegan, I would have it. So I want to do normal and vegan ones so that they've got a choice, but I really want to do those because they look amazing. I need to fill in a couple of holes. So any holes, just dab a little bit of buttercream over them. When this goes in the fridge, we can do more questions. trying to work out which way is going to be the front, just to make sure that it's all good. There's a tiny little mark at the bottom, and then what are we going in the fridge? Right, so that's going to be the front. So I'm just going to smooth off the top, and then it will go in the fridge. Right, so it is all ice, so that is the final coat, and then we'll go over it with the colours. So we'll smudge different colours over it and smooth them out with a scraper, but this needs to go in the fridge for a little while, so we're going to have to do a Q&A now. What I might have to do is put it in the fridge for a bit, and then I might put it in the freezer just to finally do that tiny last bit. So for your buttercream, do you make it white or just leave it the original colour? I make it, I don't add anything to it, but it turns out the way that was, which is pretty white. So what I do for my buttercream is I melt the butter until it's almost completely melted, so it's like a liquid. So I do it till it's half and half, and then I just mix it for literally about 10 to 15 minutes, and I just mix it, and then it will go really white. And then what I'll do is I start adding the icing, and I do this literally a spoonful at a time. I can't find my spoon, but I literally put a spoonful at a time. It takes about 10 minutes just to mix that in, but if you do it gradually, then it will kind of sift itself. I use silver spoon, so it's already very sifted, so I don't sift any of my icing sugar, and then it makes it really nice and smooth. And then once it's actually smooth, I then leave it to mix for another 5 minutes or so, and then it gets really white. And yeah, usually I don't have to add anything to it. If I do add to it, I add the colour mill. And then I've also got this, which I don't add milk to my buttercream, but if I did, then I would add this to it, and it's a powder. So what you do is you add that to a bit of hot water or milk, and then you mix it in until it's like a paste, and then you mix it with your buttercream and it will make it white, and that's the Sugar Flare Super White. But I prefer not to use anything, just because things like milk, if you add milk to your buttercream, then you can't leave it out. Whereas you can leave butter at room temperature, but as soon as you put milk in your buttercream, then you can no longer leave your cake out. So yeah, then you have to be more kind of time conscious of how long you can leave it out. That's why on these lives I can have the cake out for 2 hours, because it hasn't got any milk in the buttercream, so it's completely fine to stay room temperature. Any more questions, guys? Because I've got plenty of time to answer them. So do you use water? Only if it's a really cold day. So in winter I use water, boiling water. I'm not at the moment because it's quite warm, only because I find that the kitchen gets really cold, and then it means that when you're making buttercream, I really struggle to get it smooth. So it needs a bit of hot water to make it a bit more soft to then put on the cake. But as long as it's a semi-warm day, like kind of normal temperature, then I won't add any water or milk to it, because it won't need it. And I also don't do the half ratio. I do more of like a 1 to 1.5. So like, for example, if I'm doing a block of butter, which is 250 grams, then I usually do about 400 grams of icing sugar. So it's not half and half, because I find that makes it way too stiff. So yeah, I would do 1 to 1.5 ratio. I saw a home baking business start selling on Just Eat, and I didn't even think that. I would if the address wasn't posted everywhere. I personally would never use another company to do it, but that's just personal preference. I have only looked into it slightly, and I didn't want to pay the fees, and also I don't trust that they would deliver it in a, I don't know, good way. I would worry that the cupcakes or brownies would end up being sort of handled not with care, because I mean, I've known like delivery drivers and stuff like that, and I've had friends who are delivery drivers, and you don't necessarily know that they're gonna take care with it, because they might not care that it's a cupcake or it's a brownie box. So yeah, I just worry that they won't arrive in the same condition that they left, so I don't bother. Plus I offer delivery, so I don't need to put anything on Just Eat. When I make my buttercream, I want to leave it out, so shall I not use milk or water, just do it normally with the butter and ice and sugar? Yeah, I would say don't leave it out. And also you have to be very quick when you're using hot water, because in theory, if you think about it this way, when you boil that water, as soon as you mix it with your buttercream, it's already lessened in temperature, so it's already not as hot. So once it's mixed with your buttercream, it turns into sort of warm water rather than boiling. And then as soon as you start putting that on a cold cake, it completely solidifies. So when you use hot water, you have to be really, really quick. Like, I mean, what's the time? I probably took maybe 5-10 minutes icing that cake. Whereas if you're going to take longer than that, then I wouldn't use hot water, because as soon as you take the slightest bit too long to ice the cake, then it will go hard, and as soon as it goes hard, there's no going back. I've had it before where I've taken too long to ice the cake, and I've put hot water in it, it's gone hard, and then I start scraping it and it starts picking bits of buttercream out, so I end up with holes in the buttercream. So I just scrape the whole thing off and start it again. But yeah, it can be a bit difficult if you take too long. I have carpet in my baking studio at home. Do you think it could be a problem when I get my inspection for the rating? I don't know, if I'm honest. I don't think it will be. I mean, I've got like vinyl, what is it called? Laminate in my kitchen, so it's not proper tiles, but it's not, it's like wipeable floor. But I can't see that there would be any issue with carpet, as long as you keep it clean, and it's hoovered. I can't see any issue with it. They might say that if stuff falls on it, then you can't necessarily clean it that well. Maybe you could get like a mat for where you stand and bake. So like my area is this worktop, so you could get a little mat maybe that you can then wipe clean. I don't know. To be fair, anything like that where you're really not sure, just ask your council. You can call up your council and say, if you're not registered already, then you could just say that I'm planning to register very soon. I wanted to ask about whether there would be any issues with me having carpet in my kitchen, or like in my baking studio, because every area varies so much. I've had people ask me about pets and anything like that, and it varies between area. My area is very lenient, and they were very like, they obviously did all the proper checks, but they were more laid back about it. Whereas I've seen people where I feel like they've been over-checked during their inspection, and I thought that would have been really difficult. I would have got a lower score if I had them maybe, because they were really, really thorough, and checked things that weren't kind of related to the baking studio. So yeah, I would say ask your council. That's the easiest thing you can do. What's the next one? I do buttercream at a 5-to-8 ratio. So that's 2.5 to 4, that's the same as me, I think. So that would be 250 grams to 400, 500 grams to 800. Yeah, that's the same as me. That's the ratio that I do. Oh, 320. Yeah, see, I do 250 grams of butter to 400 grams of icing sugar, and then obviously the more I make, the more I do that. I have removed them, I think. Yeah, I've removed them, thank you. Yeah, you do get some weird people on lives. So yeah, next question. Is it okay food safety wise to use and send buttercream in postals? Yeah, you can send buttercream in postals. If it's something that needs to be kept at fridge temperature, then obviously there might be issues there, which is why I say like don't use milk, and then it can be posted. Because I post things like brownies and blondies. Some people post cupcakes. Some people post like cookie bars which have buttercream on, or like cakeaways which have buttercream on. So you can, I would just say don't use the milk, and then there's no worry that it will go off in the post, especially if you're not doing next day delivery, because then it might take too long and be out of a fridge temperature. That's alright. So yeah, I've blocked that person, I think. Or I put them on timeout, one of the two, but there'll be a little while before they can comment again. So I'm gonna stir my colours just to get all the air out of them. So we've got a blue and a red. I put them in the fridge so that the colours would develop a bit more. So now I just need to get the bubbles out. This is what other people might notice. So when you mix your buttercream for ages, you will get air bubbles. So I mix it for a while, and then you put it in a bowl, and what you do is you kind of go like this and push it against the sides, and then that will get the bubbles out. Because if you want white buttercream, then you're going to have to mix it for a while, but if you mix it for a while, then you're going to get some air bubbles. So you kind of can't win. So if you do it this way, then you can get some of the air bubbles out. Do you have to have a business account to send tracts 48 and 24? I don't. I send all of mine tract 48 just because, one, it would be way too expensive if people did tract 24. It would be like £6-7 and people wouldn't pay it. Mine's £4.80. And I do it with raw mail just because I like them. I've never had any issues with things going lost. I've also never had any issues with like items being damaged. I know some people have, but I haven't, so I always go with raw mail. And you also have to take it to a collection point, which a lot of people don't know. So I send my tract 24, and I've got a post office in my area, and I've also got a collection like customer point where you can take like the little cards if your thing isn't delivered, anything like that. But you can't take tract 24 and 48 to a normal post office. They won't accept it. It's an online only service, and you also have to print all the labels off at home. So yeah, you can't take it to a normal post office. Whereas if you do signature, then you can take it to a normal one. And if you do normal first class can take up to 7 days, so I don't do it for perishables because that's way too long. And signature, things are no longer signed for because of COVID, so they're not taking signatures. So by paying like £4 for a signed for parcel, it's not going to be signed for. The delivery man is going to sign it, and that's that. Which you would get that same confirmation if you just did first class. They would tell you if it's delivered. So that's why I don't do any signature service, because you're paying extra and there is no signature. Do you have an account for tract 48 though? So you have like a login, but you don't have to have a business account. You know, it's not like any special account. You literally just go on raw mail, click and drop, and you sign up. The same as you'd sign up for a Facebook account or an Instagram account. You just add in your email and a password, and that's because they have to have somewhere to send all the labels because you need to print them off. So yeah, you have an account, but it's not anything special. It's just like a standard account. Thank you, Vera. Why do you always send me money? You're way too kind. Thank you. That's really sweet. I hope you know that you're sending me money, because you send me these stickers on live. And I've had other people do it as well, and I'm really, really grateful, but I'm hoping that people know that they're like a little payment. But yeah, I really appreciate it. But yeah, just make sure you know that it charges you. If you're making a cake for someone who doesn't like sugar, how would you balance your sugar and moistness? Because I've heard sugar helps with it being moist and nice. I have no idea. That sounds a bit like a diabetic question. I might be wrong. You might just have someone that doesn't like sugar. But I've had people ask me for diabetic cakes where it can't have sugar in it, and I just don't take the order just because I don't know enough about it. And I don't know whether it will taste good or not. So yeah, I wouldn't know how to do it because I would worry that it wouldn't taste as nice. Or a certain amount per week to be eligible. No, so I think you're thinking of collection. So in order to be eligible for collections of parcels, you have to spend a certain amount of raw mail. Otherwise, you'll be charged per parcel. So you get charged 80p per parcel if they collect it from your home or from your business address. But if you spend, I think it's like £10,000 with raw mail per year, then they will give you free collections. So it means that they'll come to your house and collect all of your postal orders, and then they'll go and deliver them. So yeah, if you're on about that, then yes, you have to spend a certain amount of raw mail in order to get it free. But in order to just do tracked, you don't have to be eligible. Anyone can send a parcel tracked, because it's not just for business. People send like money to their family abroad, or send gifts to people abroad, and they need to be tracked because it's going abroad, and it might be high value. So yeah, tracked service is like a general thing that anyone can use. You don't have to be a business, just because anyone could want to send something tracked, because it's the only one that has a full tracked service. So it means that customers, I give them the tracking number, and they can check what day it's being delivered, what time. They can put in a slot if they know they're not going to be in, and they can also put like safe places, and then they can also track it through like airports and things like that. So it means that they can see what day it landed where, what day it's got to say Manchester, what day it's going to be delivered, etc. So that's why I like it, and also I can have a look as well. It's because I love what you do and you put your passion into it. Good luck. Oh, thank you, VRL. Yes, this is the merch, for anyone wondering. I'm wearing the merch. So it's the Chocolate Lover hoodie, which is on the website, which, if anyone is wondering, it should be linked in the description, but it's sweetthingsbyamy.co.uk. So, do you think you can post biscuits? Yeah, you can post biscuits, because I've posted sugar cookies, which are basically like a biscuit, and as long as they're sealed properly. So I have some cellophane bags which I use for all of my brownies and blondies and any cookies and anything, and as long as it's sealed in a cellophane bag, then the air can't get to it, so then it won't go stale, because that's what you don't want. Cookies and biscuits are very easy to go stale, so just make sure you put them in an airtight bag, and then you'll be perfectly fine. So whilst we're waiting for the cake to set, I'm just gonna get the excess off there. How long does buttercream last outside the fridge without milk? It's kind of just indefinitely. I never leave it out for that long. But if you think about it, you can leave butter out of the fridge indefinitely. So like my parents have one of those little butter blocks, and it's in like a china cover. So you put a cover on it and then you take it off and you can butter your bread. So they have that, and they leave it out all day, every day. Obviously if it's really hot, then they put it in the fridge, but you can leave butter out indefinitely. It can be at room temperature. It doesn't have to be kept in the fridge. And icing sugar stays in your cupboard, so the principle is the same for that. So yeah, a cake can be out of the fridge for quite a few hours. Most people if they do buttercream cakes and they don't have milk in it, they will leave a cake out of the fridge overnight until the next day when their customer collects it. I personally like to put mine in the fridge. This is mainly because I worry about how people drive, and if they don't realise how fragile the cake is, then their driving could maybe knock it over. So I keep mine in the fridge overnight anyway and get it out in the morning that they're collecting it, unless they're collecting it in the evening, just because I want it to be like as solid as possible before they drive it home. So yeah, you can keep buttercream out the fridge for quite a few hours, as long as it's not really hot. If it's hot, then it will sweat, so then you want to keep it in the fridge. But as long as it's like average temperature, like what is it today, like 21, that's like average, I would say, and then any less than that is fine. But yeah, if it goes above 21, then I'd say you might want to keep it in the fridge. So our buttercream is perfectly room temperature because I had it in the fridge to darken it. So the red is now really nice and dark, and the blue as well. So yeah, that's ready, but it's whether the cake is ready. So it needs to be nice and hard, because if we're going to be scraping buttercream off of it, it has to be really nice and set. So I'm just scraping any excess off these spoons. There we go. And I need my palette knife, which isn't here. So I'm going to grab my palette knife. And if anyone has any more questions, put them down below, because I will need to concentrate once I get the cake out, so then we'll leave questions until afterwards. Right, so I've got my palette knife. There we go. So how is the cake doing? Right, it's almost there. I think it's been in there for about 20 minutes now. So yeah, like I said, any more questions? We've probably got another 5 minutes or so until I can get the cake out. It's not quite ready yet. I don't want to rush it. We're also doing a covered board today, so it's going to be covered in buttercream. So we'll be doing some like decorative buttercream on it. I need to find one of my nozzles because I don't know where it is. But yes, so we've got our two colours. I'm going to be putting a little bit of gold leaf on the cake, which is one of these packets, which is this one. So I'm going to be putting a little bit of gold leaf on it. I've got some paint because I've got very little gold leaf, but I know that it was more of a decorative. They didn't want too much gold leaf, so I'm thinking that if it looks a little bit plain, I might put a tiny little splatter of gold paint on it. And then I've got a bit of luster dust as well to go on there. And then, like I say, if it needs it, I'm going to add these metallic rods, but she didn't really want sprinkles on it. She said that they don't really like sprinkles, so I'm going to try and refrain from using those. I might use like 1 or 2 just to add a little something to the front of the cake, because it hasn't got any chocolates or anything on it. Right, I'm going to get a drink, and then actually I've got my coffee, but I'm going to get a water just before we start doing this cake. Right, I've got my water. While we're waiting, I'm going to show you the cake I did yesterday. So this is a dummy cake before anyone worries about the way I'm holding it. So it is very, very light. So this is polystyrene. If you go and follow my TikTok, which is very near 1,000 followers, what I'm going to start doing is every time I finish a live, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all the cleanup on TikTok. So I've seen loads of people doing this where they just chat, do Q&A, the same as I do on here, but they do it for the cleanup. So I like to do the cake decorating on here because then you can come back and watch it later. But what I'm thinking is I'm going to do all the cleanup on TikTok and any like just prep before I go live as well. and then TikTok doesn't keep lives, so then they just get like deleted. So then it means that you won't be able to see it again, so that's why I'm not doing any decorating on there. So yeah, I am at about, I think 900 and something on TikTok, which it's like gone up all of a sudden. So what I'm doing is I'm going to do lives on there so that I can do any cleanup and like find new people to follow me as well, because there's more people on TikTok as well. And then I will be coming here to do the decorating. But this is one I did, and I did some TikToks of it yesterday, and I got some photos as well for content. I've got hair in my face somewhere. So yeah, it's just a little like smudge cake, which is similar to what we're doing today, but today it's red and blue and it's got less sprinkles on it and hasn't got the black dots. But yeah, and then we just got purple, and it did have some Lindt chocolates on it, but I ate them. But yeah, this is the full cake. So it's just a little drum that I want to actually, sorry, I'm reading comments. It's just a drum that I got off Amazon, and it was, I think it was like £7 or £8, and it's a 4-inch drum, and it's about 8 to 9 inches tall. I can never wear anything with sleeves when decorating, as I always end up sticking my elbow in something. How do you stay so clean? Because I'm so aware that I am really, really clumsy, so if I am not careful, then I'll end up with my whole hand in a cake. I've had it done so many times that I don't like to, I just worry so much, so I'm so conscious. Do you think there's a way for local deliveries but remaining anonymous without paying loads of fees like Just Eat? The thing is, I don't think you want to remain anonymous, because the whole way that you get orders is by people knowing who you are. So like people will go onto your Instagram and then they'll want to place an order because they like what they see on your Instagram, whereas if you're only on Just Eat and you're anonymous, then people won't get to know your business, which I don't think is that great. I think you want to build that business, and people will get to know you, and then also know like your business and how good your stuff is. And also the issue with Just Eat, I don't like doing last minute orders, and that is last minute basically. So yeah, I don't like the idea that someone could order some brownies and they expect them in like the evening, because I like to bake everything in advance and I like to have like a schedule. So yeah, I would just worry that it wouldn't be like good quality because I've rushed it. I want to do TikTok, but the comments are brutal about prices. I mean, TikTok is brutal in general. TikTok is pretty horrible in the comments. However, and also usually it's brutal about prices because people are undercharging, if that's what you mean. If you go onto any Facebook group, I'm in quite a lot of them, there's so many people that will sell, like this cake, if I was to sell this and it was actually a cake, it's a 4-inch cake, it's 8 inches tall, this would be about, I think it would be about £42, which most people would look at and go, what am I paying £42 for? But 4-inch cakes take the same amount of time as a 6-inch cake. They're no quicker just because they're smaller. If anything, the smaller the cake, the longer they take. So £42 is 3 hours of time, which isn't enough. I usually take 4 hours. And then that's also £10 an hour, which is a low wage. Most jobs, they pay £15 an hour. Like my accountancy job was £16 an hour. So getting paid £10 an hour for something that someone can't make themselves is quite low. And the rest of it is ingredients. So if they have a topper on this, that's £5, and then the ingredients are £8. So yeah, whereas some people are selling bigger cakes than this in terms of like circumference or diameter, where it's like 8 inches wide, and they're selling it for like £30, when I'm charging people, like I booked in a cake that's an 8-inch cake for next month, and it's £80, and it's got flowers on it, which is only £10 worth of the price. So it's an 8-inch cake and it's £70. But yeah, there's a lot of undercharging. I heard that you can tell someone to come and collect, came from like a park near you, without having to give your location, wait until they leave and go to your car and walk back, if you're talking about that. Yeah, so you might be able to do something like that. Please excuse the dogs barking. It's earlier than I usually go live, so yeah, they're still barking. But yeah, you can get someone to collect it. I've seen people do that. But the only thing is, if you're registered, then you're going to have to give your address. If you're doing food, then you'd have to give your address. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't personally mind people coming to my home address. People come to my parents' house. That's where I live. And I only give my address out once they've paid for their order. So I don't give my address out to anyone that hasn't paid. So I send my postcode to people, like the first part of it, so that they can tell whereabouts in my area I am. Because like if it's like HP and then 1, then HP 20, then they might know whereabouts that is in the area. So I give it out more for that sense, but I don't give out the whole address until they've actually paid, because they're not going to pay and then like do anything bad. So yeah, as long as you're not giving your address out to people randomly, then I think you'll be fine. But the rule is that if they haven't paid, then they don't get the collection address. That's it. You can say what area you're in, and that's it. You can, like, the town. TikTok is worth it though, because one video can really blow up your business. It really can. Like, I haven't like blown up, but I had like 50 followers, like literally a month ago. And then the past couple of days, I've done the odd upload and it's got like 10,000 views, but then some of my others get like a couple of hundred. And when it gets 10,000 views, I'm getting like 100 followers in a day, and it just went crazy sometimes. And I haven't done anything different. The same hashtags, all of that, just like the odd different soundtrack, but nothing majorly different, and it does make a difference. So like for some reason the algorithm is just so random that some videos can get more attraction than others. So yeah, some of them get attraction, some of them don't, but TikTok is very unusual in terms of the algorithm. It's very hard to know what to do. But I think it's definitely worth it, and I just like making the videos because they're fun. But yeah, that is the cake I made, so I'm going to put it back over there. But I can leave this out the fridge. That's why you see cakes in windows, because it's not real cake, so I can just leave this out indefinitely, even though it's got buttercream on it. So I'm going to put these into piping bags, and then we're going to get started. I need 2 piping bags. So we have 2 piping bags. I'm going to cut off the excess like I always do, because they're so massive. So let me just do this. I've seen a couple of questions, so I will answer those in a minute. There we go. How would you deal with people asking for things like children's cakes when your niche is minimal or naked cakes? You can either tell them that it's not your style, which I've done before. It sounds harsh, but like if I don't like a design, I won't do it. I don't need the money that much that I'll do something that doesn't fit with my brief, the same as you're saying, like your niche is minimal and naked cakes. So if I look at something and I go, I don't really like the look of that cake, I don't want to do it, then I just tell people that it's not my style of cake and that I won't do it. But if it's something that you can do, then you have the option to say yes or no. I mean, I do some things that put me out of my comfort zone, just because I like the challenge of doing something that I don't necessarily know how to do. So it really just depends whether it's a cake that you don't like and don't want to do, in which case I just say, unfortunately, I'm either not available. So you're either not available, you overprice the cake. Those are your 2 options. If you're too nice a person to say the truth, then that's 2 things you can do. You give them a like ridiculously high quote and then they won't buy from you, or you just say, sorry, you're not available for that date. Or if you do want to tell the truth, then you just say, sorry, that's not my niche, I only offer this. Like I do that with fondant cakes. I tell people that I'm sorry, I specialise in buttercream cakes, so I won't do any fondant. If you want this cake in buttercream but with fondant details, then that's fine. But if you aren't if you don't want a buttercream cake, then I won't do it. So yeah, you either be honest and say you don't want to do it, or you can come up with an excuse. It's quite easy to like deter people. Do you know how to contact the local EHO? If you've already registered, then you should be able to just call up the council, your local council, and ask them to speak to that department. And if you haven't registered, then it might be a bit more difficult. I don't know how you contact them in that case, but you should get an email if you've registered and they're planning to do an inspection. They should at least acknowledge that you are registered and that they need to come out to see you at some point. Would you consider getting a bakery? I said this in one of my recent videos, but I'm not really thinking that I'm going to get a shop anymore. Mainly because it's a very large outgoing, so you'll lose, unless you're making a lot of money, then I'm going to lose that money that I'm spending on a shop and rent and all of that. Whereas I can work from the comfort of my own home, which I love, and not have to pay any rent and do exactly the same thing as I would in a shop. Because the only thing about a shop is, one, it's a big commitment. And if I decide that I don't want to work 6 days a week, then I've got a shop. And the second thing is, I'm not sure about the whole open house. This, you know, like how a shop, you can go in there any day of the week and there's always stuff out. I would need a lot of employees to then bake that stuff, because if I still want to do cakes in my spare time, then I'm not going to be able to necessarily be in the shop every day. So then I'm going to have to pay wages of people, so I also need to have the money to do that. Whereas at the moment, I quite like being a one-man band and doing it all myself. And yeah, I can do that from the comfort of my own home. So I think at the moment I'm not thinking that I'm gonna get a shop. I've kind of gone off of it. And I'm thinking that I'm gonna try and be like online, like doing tutorials and YouTube, and like working from home. Like I would hope to eventually get a house, and then what I'm thinking is, if I can work from my home, then I'm already paying the rent for my house, so it's no extra cost. Whereas having a bakery as well would be the rent of your house as well as the rent of a bakery. It just depends what you want. I want to have the freedom to be able to go on holiday and things like that, which I don't think you have as much of that luxury if you have a shop. So yeah, it just depends how much freedom you want. So I see the same brownies on Etsy week in, week out. Is it hard to get there and stay there? The problem with Etsy at the moment is so many people are paying for ads, and that'll be why they're on the first page, that if you're not paying for ads, then you're not going to be anywhere near the front, because there's so many bakeries starting in lockdown. And when I say starting in lockdown, I mean like the past couple of weeks, whereas like I started in lockdown, but I started last year, so I'm like miles away from these people. Whereas there's a lot of people that have started in the past couple of weeks who are then going on to Etsy, and because they're posting ads, anything that is paid ads is going to be put on the first page, and then however popular it is will be how low or high it is. But now there's ads on the second, third page of Etsy, so basically you have to have ads to be in the first few pages. I pay for ads, but I also kind of have the custom to do that, whereas these new businesses, they're paying for ads because they're trying to get orders, and they're also very low priced. But if they're not getting orders, then they can still stay on that front page because they're paying for ads. Whereas normally the way Etsy works is the more popular you are, the closer to the front you'll be. But like I say, because so many people are paying for ads, they kind of skip that. So it means even if you're a really popular seller, you might not be on the front page just because there's so many people paying for ads. So yeah, Etsy is a bit difficult at the moment. There's just, it's so saturated. There's so many people registered and unregistered that are baking brownies now, that it just means that there's just such a high amount of people doing it. Which is why I'm kind of stepping away from it at the moment. I'm not really bothered about postals. If people order, they order, but I'm not kind of worried about getting a certain amount a week because there's just so many people doing it now. I'm kind of focusing on all my cake orders and things. And that's why I want to get some new products next week, because obviously the more unique you are, the more likely you are to get orders. So I want to make my Etsy a bit more unique, so that even though there's thousands of people doing brownies, people are more likely to pick me. So we'll see. That's what I'm aiming for. So, right. We're going to get the cake out. Sorry guys, I don't know what happened there. YouTube keeps doing that the past couple of times. It just completely crashes. And I was worried that it would cut out the live, but luckily it didn't, so we're back. I got the cake out the fridge. My signal must have gone or something, I'm not quite sure what happened. But I'm just bringing up the photo, because I think I sent the lady a photo, so I'm just checking whether I have that, because I don't think I do. Right, bear with. Let me just bring up the live again. Is it buffering for anyone else? Yeah, so it just cut out, so that's why it would have been buffering. My YouTube is completely closed and it turned off the live for no reason. But yeah, it should be fine now. It's fine on my iPad, so hopefully it'll be fine for you guys. So I'm hoping that this looks the way that I want it to. I can't decide, should I put the red on first and then have the blue over the top, or the blue on first and have the red over top? I can't decide. I think I might do the blue first. Right. So what I'm going to do with this, like I say, apart from that cake that I did yesterday, I've never done this style before, so yeah, I'm just kind of winging it, if you're wondering. Have you ever tried Swiss meringue buttercream? Do you prefer American? I've never tried it, however, I just like American buttercream. Yeah, it's sort of thing where I know my customers prefer American buttercream. No one's ever asked for Swiss meringue, so I just kind of leave it. Do you take orders by messages or some other social media? Which is the best one? So I take orders literally every possible way. I take some through my website, I take some through Etsy, I take through Instagram and Facebook Messenger. So I only take local orders through Instagram messages, Facebook messages, and my website. Some people contact me via my website, and then they'll either WhatsApp me or they'll just continue talking to me through the website. So it just depends how they contact me the first time. But yeah, most of the time it's just those three. And then for postal orders, it's the website and Etsy only. I don't take any postal orders via message because it's just confusing. So I do all of my postals, they have to order through the website or Etsy. Right, so we're going to try this out. Ooh. So that's what it looks like. I'm just going to scrape off any excess and put it in this bowl. My things keep falling. Right, so is that all of them? Right, so we're going to put some more blue on there just to fill in any gaps. I want it to look quite like layered. Right, let's see what that looks like. Oh my god, that looks so cool. Oh, thank you. So we're going to be putting red over the top as well, so there'll be like a mixture. And you basically just scrape it until it's nice and thin, because if it's too thick, then when you put the next layer of colour on, then that will smudge it. So that's perfectly fine, basically. So I'm going to quickly put that in the fridge. It will only need 5 minutes because it's so thin, and then we'll start putting the red on top. So yeah, I've got my little order book. Have you ever tried reusable / silicone piping bags? I have some here. The only issue, I use them for nozzles, and then I use these when I don't need a nozzle, only because obviously I would have to wash these every time, which is a lot of faff, as much as it does save the planet, whereas this I can throw away. And also I can have lots of different colours in these, whereas because I only have few of these, I would have to wash them out every single time. And it also means if you're changing nozzle, so what I typically do is I have these and I have my nozzles in them. I've got like 3 or 4, and then what I do is I have this bag and I put it in here, use the say star nozzle, actually use it, and then I can take this out of this bag and then switch the nozzle and then put it back in. Whereas if you put a nozzle directly in here, every time you want to change the nozzle you'd have to cut it out, which is a lot of faff. So I do the 2-bag method, where I have a bag inside a bag, and then you can switch them out easily. But yeah, I do try and use reusable whenever I can, but it is very difficult when you're using lots of different colours. My American buttercream melted the other day, even though it was really cold. What could be the reason? It depends what ratio you did. I don't know why it would melt. Do you mean like it's separated? Because the only thing that I can think is that it's separated. So like if it was not combined properly, the butter and the icing sugar, which is why I say to mix the butter for 10 to 15 minutes and then to start putting the icing sugar in literally a spoonful at a time, because if you do it slowly in order to mix it in, then it won't separate. But if your buttercream starts to separate, then it might look like it's melting, but it's just where the butter is separating from the icing sugar. So that can happen even if it is cold. It can still separate if it's not mixed properly. So yeah, that's all I can think that it would have been. Do you think just selling brownies, blondies and cookies is enough for a business? I don't really want to do cakes yet. That's perfectly fine. A lot of people I know plenty of people that do postals only, so they don't do any local orders, they do online only. And they also only do things like brownies, cookie bars, millionaire slices, anything like that. There's so many people that don't do any like cakes. Some people don't even do cupcakes. Some people just do, I would say like savoury treats, I would call it, because they're not like cakes in a sense. So yeah, there's plenty of people that do that. I would say, I'd recommend you look at George's Bakery on Instagram, if you have Instagram, or look at his website. I'd really recommend him just for inspiration, because he does postals only. He does markets, which he does cakes at, but his postals, there's no cakes. So his postals are just brownies, blondies, cookie bars, shortbread cakes, that kind of thing. He doesn't do any like proper cakes or cupcakes in it. What's your most used nozzle? I don't have it in front of me because I don't know where it is, but it's the 8B, which is a big star nozzle, and then the rose nozzle, which is the Wilton 1M or the 2D. The 1M is bigger than the 2D, so it just depends on how big you want your roses or like rosettes. You can use a cupola, which means that you can change nozzles without having to cut it out and keep the same colour of buttercream for a usable bag. I think I know what that is, but if you can recommend one that fits the bigger nozzles in, then please do, because I think you mean this. Excuse the dirty bag. I think you mean this, which is, I think that's a cupola. So that I can change the nozzle, but the only problem with this is it doesn't fit every nozzle on. So you'll be able to see, I've got my nozzle here. As you can see, that is way too big to fit on there. That's the issue that I've got. this only fits my small nozzles on, which aren't branded. Whereas if I want to use any of my Wilton nozzles, so the 2D, the 1M, and then this is the 8B, which is that star nozzle I was on about, then I can't use that, which is really annoying. So if you know where I can get bigger ones of this, please let me know, because then I will. But yeah, because that's very handy if I'm using the unbranded nozzles. They're like Amazon nozzles, but if I'm using any branded ones, they don't fit on there. So that is, there are bigger sizes, I think Wilton does them. Oh, okay, we may be onto something, okay. Yeah, because even if I didn't use a reusable bag, I could put them on here, which would save me using multiple bags. Or PME, okay, I will have a look, thank you. I need to write that down because I'm going to forget. But yeah, I will make sure to check that out because they are really handy. But yeah, the one that I have doesn't fit my nozzles on it. George's Bakery has such unique ideas and amazing inspiration. He is honestly amazing. I don't know how he does it. He's so good. He has so many different products. I think when you do postals only, you have the freedom to do so many different products. I'm trying to up my postal game just because I do a lot of cakes, and then a lot of my local orders are cakes, whereas if I can up the amount of postals I do, because I have more time because I'm only doing local cakes, it's not like I'm doing local cupcakes and all of that. So yeah, then I can do more postals. So I'm trying to do cookies. I want to do vegan cookies and normal cookies. And then I also want to try some Rocky Road. I've ordered some marshmallows after the question that I asked in the last live, because I asked people if they knew, I think it was last live or last video, I asked people where to get vegan marshmallows from, because I want to make sure that it's at least vegetarian, because I'm vegetarian, so I can't try the Rocky Road if I don't use veggie marshmallows. And it also just means that it's suitable for everyone, because none of the other products will have like gelatin or anything in them, so it means that anyone can order them and they're suitable for everyone. So yes, right, I'm gonna drink this coffee quickly and then we're gonna get the cake back out and do the red. So who else is a good person for postal inspiration? I mean, obviously Finch Bakery are amazing, and they do a lot of postals, but I feel like theirs isn't as broad as George Bakery's. His is, George's is really, really broad. He has so many different things on there. Right, let's see if it's set. Right, we are set, so we can now start on the red. Right, I'm just going to kind of place this wherever. I don't really know how I'm planning on doing this, if I'm honest, so we're just going to dot it around. I want some of it to overlap the blue, so that bit looks so funny. That's the thing about not using a nozzle. Sometimes it looks so funny. Right, we're going to try that because I don't want to add too much and then it be too crowded. I'd rather not add enough. Ah, that's who I was thinking of. Holly, you hit the nail on the head. Chanel's Cakery is so amazing. However, she goes out of stock so quickly because I really want to order a chocolate slab from her. But yeah, I think they're out of stock at the moment when I last checked, because I follow her on TikTok as well. Can't decide colour or design for my cake. Have to bake for my mum's friend's birthday. Any ideas? So for starters, give me a bit more info. Is it a girl or a boy? I don't think you've said. My mum's friend, yeah. If it's a girl or a boy, as to whether, what colours I think would go best. And then we can talk about like styles and stuff as well. And also for cake ideas, I always love a drip cake. It's my favourite thing. So whenever I'm in doubt, I always suggest a drip cake because they always look amazing. excited. I love when a cake starts to come together, especially when it was a completely random design. Like I had no idea how this was going to turn out because I've never done it before. A woman 41 years old. I would say go for something elegant. So I would say maybe like nude colours. So maybe like a baby pink, maybe kind of like creams, whites and gold. So maybe you could do like either a pink and white kind of ombre for the main part of the cake, and then you could do a white drip and then add bits of like gold leaf or gold paint, and then you can add like white chocolate on it as well, which usually looks really nice. Yeah, I would say that. I think her presence on TikTok really helps her too. People love real people behind businesses, even though I'm shy. I used to be shy until I started doing YouTube, and then now I just talk too much. All the cake looks really beautiful. Thank you. It's now coming together. I'm just filling a couple of gaps of where needs a little more colour. Right. I don't think it needs much more because it's sort of, the point is that you can see bits of white, so I want to leave areas. Right, so I need to put a bit more blue on there because the red has taken over a little bit. So scrape that last bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shove it in the fridge quickly, and then we're going to put a tiny bit more blue over the top, and then it'll be raring to go. So, thank you so much. That's alright, I hope that was helpful to make the cake. And yeah, I would say white chocolate is always safe for girls' cakes because obviously it's white based. So yeah, white, pinks, golds is always like a safe option for girls' cakes, I think. So, we've got quite a bit of buttercream left, which is good because we need to cover the board. And it'll be mixed colours on the board. So we're going to give it 5 minutes in the fridge, and then because it's such a thin layer of buttercream on the outside, it will set very quickly, so then we can do the next layer. I'm just going to do a little bit of clean up here because it is so messy down here. I'm so impatient. I really want it to be set already. Yeah, I want it to be done so that I can take it out. Have you ever got tired from baking and wanted to leave? Do you mean like just completely stop the business? If you mean in that sense, I mean, I get tired, like I'm really tired now, which is why I wanted to do the live a bit earlier so that I can relax afterwards. But I would say that if it is a real passion, then anything that you're passionate about, you're going to have lows and highs. So, you know, there's going to be stressful times, there's going to be really great moments, things like when you give a customer a cake and their reaction is amazing, but then there's also going to be stressful parts. But if it's something that you really want to do, then you won't mind those ups and downs. But any job has that. I don't know how young or old you are, but I've been in 2 accounting jobs. One was for 3 years and one was for 1.5 years. Both were very, very stressful. And I can honestly say that the stress of a cake is much nicer than the stress of paying someone money. An accountancy job is way more stressful, and it's not something that I'm passionate about, so it's stressful and it's not enjoyable at the same time. But if you can get enjoyment out of cakes, then even though it's stressful, then you're gonna still feel good at the end of the day. So yeah, I think it just depends how much you want to do it. I don't mind the stressful times. I very rarely get stressed, if I'm completely honest. I feel like you get past it in the end. Weddings is slightly different. I've got quite a few wedding bookings now for next year, and I am scared for those. But when I get a cake order, I'm not stressed about it at all. Like this cake order, I'm not stressed at all. But I used to worry a lot more. So maybe you're in the beginning of your business and you haven't got to that point yet where you become like stress-free, which is just great. But you will get there eventually. Eventually you just kind of, you don't get stressed over the little things, which makes it a lot more enjoyable. Do you have a video on your channel about filling out your catering business digital planner? Do you mean my spreadsheet, or do you mean the Safer Food Better Business? I have a video on the Safer Food Better Business. I don't think I have one on, if you mean my spreadsheet, I don't think I have one on how to fill it out, or I might do. Because I don't know. It depends, because obviously each business will be different in filling it out. Spreadsheets. I think I do. I think it's my paperwork video where I went through all my paperwork that I have. I think I went through it. But if you want me to do another one, then feel free, because I can do another one. I don't think I've done one for a while, if I have. So I'm happy to do another one and then post it next week. What is it that you want to know, just so that I can know what to cover in the video? How do you price orders based on ingredients and how long it takes, stuff like that? I did a video on this in terms of like how to price your bakes, but just a brief overview. Let me grab my notepad, because I'll be able to literally show you a breakdown. And now I do it this way, which I didn't used to. I used to have like starting prices for each size of cake, but then I realised that I was undercharging, so now I do it to the exact cost. So I'll grab my planner and then I can show you how I cost my bakes, and yeah, you can have a little look. Right guys, I'm back. So I've got my planner here. So we've got some quotes that I've done previously. There's no name, so I'm fine to show it. So here's one that I did for a recent cake. So we've got cake topper, which is £5. Then we've got cake time, so you do the amount of hours that you're aiming to spend on the cake. So I usually do 4 hours. And although I upped my prices in April, I haven't been sticking to it already. I'm trying to do £15 an hour, just because I feel like my cake quality is good enough for that. Whereas I know a lot of like bakers that are starting out that are charging £10 an hour, whereas my quality and finish is a bit better, so I feel like it should be higher. So yeah, I charged it at £10 an hour just because I did, but I need to start doing it at 15. So cake time is £10 an hour times 4, which gives you £40. Ingredients was £18. Then the flowers was £10. The board and box is £2, and then the chocolates is £5. So that brings us to £80, and it's an 8-inch cake with some flowers on it. So that's how I do it, that's how it looks. And yeah, I initially did £7.50 for the flowers, which is why it was £77.50. But then I did a little bit more research and I realised I needed 4 flowers, not 3. So they'll be £2.50 each, meaning £10. So that's how I got to that number. So that's how I price my bakes, and I do this for every single cake that I do. So that's how I price them. I'm going to do an updated video because I have changed it recently. So I will do a more in-depth video showing you like wage costs for depending on your skill. So then I can show people that if you're just starting out, then you can charge this much. If you're more experienced, then you'll charge this much. And then I'm also going to show you how I price wedding cakes, because I price it slightly different to other people, and I like to be kind of true to cost, because some people do charge like £700 for a wedding cake, and I will charge, hi to someone that just joined, I charge starting from 300 upwards, and that doesn't include setup and delivery, which can be anything up to £100. So yeah, I'm going to do another video on how to do wedding cakes as well, because some people might be curious. So that is that. I work as an accountant as well, but I'm on parental leave, so I got a passion for baking cakes, but I'm so scared to begin to sell. I've just done cakes for my family and friends and for myself. So I started off doing the same. I was never like a big baker. I just literally started in May last year, and I did a month of baking, and then I was like, right, I'm going to start a business, and that was literally it. No like forward planning at all. So, and it's much nicer than an accounting job, so you'll know what I mean, because mine was horrible. And mine was like a ridiculous workload as well, so that's why I couldn't keep it up, because there was just so much work, and due to COVID it was just really stressful. I'd love to, because I'm going to buy it today, like examples of how to fill it out, when to clean what. Sorry, I'm terrible at explaining. Okay, yeah, I will do a video which can go up. My next upload is Tuesday, but I am doing a day in the life next week. So yeah, I'll aim for Tuesday, but it might be that I upload it as an extra video. So it will either be Tuesday or before Tuesday as an extra. But yeah, I will definitely do it for then, and I'll do a how to fill it out, and it will be one of my spreadsheet videos. So I'll sit in front of the computer and I'll have my screen recording, so then you can see everything. What did help you overcome that? Like, I'm always thinking, what if a customer doesn't like the cake I've made? I would recommend you listen to my podcast, because I talk about this in it. So this is to Isabel's comment. I did, my first podcast episode was how I quit my job and started a business at 21, and it was like no forward planning at all. So yeah, it's a full like how I did that, how I decided to do that, and like my mindset behind it. And then the next podcast is going to be about business mindset, and overcoming like uncertainty and anything like that relating to starting a business, because it can be very, very daunting. So I will be doing that in the next podcast, but I would say listen to that podcast, because that is probably the best explanation of me leaving my job and like how I did that, and you might be able to relate to it. How much did you spend on packaging, logo, etc. in total before you started? Etsy, 20 boxes, 50, 100, etc. I used to do packs of 25 boxes, and I used to spend £15, and that would mean that they were like 50p a box, whereas now I get them for like 10 pence because I buy them in hundreds. And I spend £16 on a logo, and then on the packaging, things like tissue paper, I bought them off Amazon, and now you can get them cheaper elsewhere. So it just depends, but yeah, I would say I probably spent maybe like £300 altogether. That was like cake boxes, cake boards, everything, new logo, website. Yeah, that was everything. But you might not need that much. Like, I pay £10 a month for a website, but you won't probably need that. So yeah, there's various things that you might not need. I also wasted about £100 on boxes because I bought the wrong sizes multiple times and then I never used them. I'm now using them, but they're the letterbox boxes and my brownies were too big for them, so I bought letterbox brownie boxes about 3 or 4 times, spent like 20 quid a time on them and then never use them. So yeah, don't do that and then you won't be spending as much as me. Do you remember all your recipes off the top of your head? So my cupcake recipe, my Victoria sponge recipe and my brownie recipe I know off the top of my head, but that's just because I make them so often. Whereas any other recipe, like Biscoff cake or chocolate cake, anything like that, I don't remember. I need a recipe in front of me. I could remember half of it. It's not so much the process, it's the measurements, and also if I'm not making the exact amount. So like for an 8-inch cake I would need to double my recipe, and for a 4-inch cake I would need to leave it as it is. So that's the only thing, like I can remember it off my head, but if I'm doing a funny measurement to try and get a weird size cake, like a 6-inch where I need 1.5 times, then obviously I will need the recipe in front of me to make sure that I'm doing the right measurements. But most of the time I do it off the top of my head. I listened to your podcast, it was really inspiring. Thank you, that's really sweet. There will be another one up on Sunday, and I'm filming it tonight just because I had the ideas in my head and I wanted to do it. So again, that's why I did this earlier, because I'm gonna record it about 9 PM if I actually have any like voice left, because you know when you've been talking for so long I feel like I'm gonna run out of my voice and then I'm not gonna be able to do the podcast, because podcast is like an hour long. But yeah, I'm hoping that I can record it tonight and then it will be up on Sunday. And there won't be any video this week, but I'm hoping that by next week I can sort out the space in my office so that I can do podcast video as well as podcast audio. And then they'll both go up at the same time on Sunday, one on Spotify, one on YouTube. And the YouTube one will be visual so you can see me. And then obviously the podcast on Spotify will be just voice only, which I prefer if I'm like driving or if I'm doing admin and I can't watch something, then I prefer that. So it means that you can watch it on different ones. But I just want to say thank you to everyone that listened to the podcast, because I think it was like 60 people have listened to it, which considering like it's a completely new podcast, I didn't even expect like 5 people to listen to it. So yeah, thank you to everyone that's listened to it, because it's very exciting and it's going up quite a lot. Like I think today it's gone up by like 20 or 30 people, so yeah, it's very, very exciting. Right, we're going to put a little bit more blue on the cake and then we're going to be doing the top and then we're done. So this area is the area that I want to add a bit more blue on. I don't think we actually need it anywhere else, but it's just these parts where there is a lot, and like down there where there's a lot of red, that I just want to put a tiny bit more blue. Just so that it balances it out a bit more. Right. Where is my cloth? Right, let's see. Oh gosh, there's a tiny bit of red there. Right, so we're going to go with that. Actually, I've got a tiny bit of blue there. Can't decide which bit to have as the front. A tiny bit. Right, it's done. I just need to, like, done colour wise, I just need to decide which side is going to be the front. I think it's going to be this side. I just need to scrape that tiny bit there. So, I think this is the front. I'm going to do the bit around the top first, and then I think we're going to put the gold leaf on it. I want to try and do like an ombre with like 2 colours, but I don't know whether to just do like a half and half, I'm not sure. The most tiring part of the job is researching ingredients and the price. Price a cake for a customer, then for them to turn around and go shoot. I know, that is definitely frustrating. I haven't had that happen in a while, but it used to. I think it gets to a point where people will know your pricing and like your standard and just not come to you if they're not interested. But yeah, I used to get the same thing. So that is the front. I need to mark it with a pen so that I know. Actually, I do like this side, so I think I'm gonna. That is going to be the front there. So I'm going to put a bit of this gold leaf on there. So when I'm doing gold leaf, I always leave it in the packet because I find it's the easiest way to do it. Where do you get your gold leaf from? I get it from Amazon. It's just edible gold leaf on Amazon. That's all I put on there. I'm going to splash a little bit of the gold paint on there. I'm going to do that before I do the top, otherwise it will splash all over that. So I just use a paintbrush. These are like food paintbrushes that I bought from the range. And then I just use a glove and just literally flick it. It gets everywhere. So make sure that you're able to get it everywhere and you haven't got like important stuff behind it. It also uses a lot of paint, so I'm just using this paint. It's the metallic light gold rainbow dust. And then just flick it. Need way more paint. How do you know if a poster item will be popular? Honestly, you don't. I mean, I know that my brownies are popular, so that's why they're the main poster item I do. But yeah, you just have to kind of trial and error. If something isn't popular, then try something else. Yeah, that's kind of all I do. I don't know that something's going to be popular. Do you like Colour Mill paints? I've never used Colour Mill paints. I've only used their food colouring. I don't know if that's the same thing. I want a tiny bit more. I think I need a bigger paintbrush because this one is not my biggest brush, so it takes a little longer. Right, so I think that is it for the gold paint. I don't know if you can see the gold paint. I will pick it up in a minute. Got gold paint all over me. So, as you can see, it's got gold leaf and there's gold paint splattered all over it. Like so. What type of food colouring do you recommend? I use Colour Splash, which is this one, and then I use Colour Mill, like so, and Pro Gel. Pro Gel and Colour Splash are the same price range. Colour Mill is quite a bit more expensive, but for things like black, navy, white, and certain colours, it's definitely worth it. I use Colour Mill for any dark colours, just because for chocolate, it's good to have, because as soon as you start adding a lot of a colour to chocolate, it will start to seize. So for any dark colours where you need a lot of colour, then I buy Colour Mill. So I've got green, I've got navy, and I've got a nude colour, just because you can't buy it in any other brand. So it just depends whether you can get the colour that you want. Colour Mill sometimes has some really nice colours which you can't buy anywhere else, so that's why I buy them from Colour Mill. Just turning the light on. So we're going to put the, I can't decide whether to, I think I'm going to do a white and blue ombre round the top. So I need another bag. Actually I don't. So what I'm doing for this, move all this out of the way. And my scales. So for this, you roll your cling film out, and then it's buffering. Are we gonna come back? So it looks like this, and it's got the two colours in it. There we go. Hopefully it stays like that. So what you do is, that's the cling film, and then I'm going to put it into my piping bag. I think I'm going to go for this nozzle. This is the 8B. And then what you do with your bag is you just cut one end, and then the buttercream will come out in two colours. Hopefully. Yep, right. Right. So we're going to go back in with the paint over the top. Right, so now we need to cover the board. So now I know which way is the front. I'm going to put a couple of these sprinkles on just because I feel like it will finish it. I'm only putting a couple because I know that she didn't really want sprinkles, so I'm literally putting 1 or 2, well, like 3 or 4 say, on the top here, just to make it look a little more finished, you know. There we go. And then what do I have? And then I'm also going to put these on it. So again, they're big sprinkles, so it means that she can pick them off if she doesn't like them. Because it was more of like a personal preference in terms of taste rather than look. But I just think it will look unfinished without it. So I'm putting, there's literally 6 on there, so it means they can be picked off if they don't like them. What did you spray on the top? I use the Cake Decor, and this is a luster dust, and you can buy it from the range, and it's just gold. I've got it in pink and silver as well. Right, so we don't need to wipe the board because it's just got buttercream and a bit of gold paint on it, but we're covering it, so that's fine. So I am going to take this out of here, and we're going to start with white, so because I've got some white left, and I'm going to put it in this same bag. And then what I do is I'm just going to pipe random places because we're going to fill the gaps with other colours. So let's scrape that bit off because that bit didn't come out right. There we go. Right, so I'm going to take this nozzle off, and now we're going to switch to a rose nozzle. I'm not sure where it is, whether it's in here or... So we're going to switch to this nozzle, which is the 2D, and this was the 8B. So I don't need that bag, so I'm going to use a different bag. Can't get that one off. scissors. So, I think I'm going to go for red next. And then just put the bag inside the bag. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to fill any gaps. And then in the gaps, I'm going to put blue because we've got red, white, a little bit of blue, but I want some more blue on the board, and we're going to fill it using that same nozzle. So we're going to keep that bag to one side, and I've got some leftover white, so I'm going to colour that blue. So we're using the Royal. A little bit more. So I'm just getting rid of any excess red, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put the blue in there, and then the excess red will come off of the tip. So we've coloured our blue. And then we're going to do the same that we did . Right, I think that is it. And what I'm going to do is to spray a little bit of this . Right, so this is the front. I'm going to put a little note on the side of the board. I think. No, this was the front. I'm going to go for that for the front. Change my mind now. There we go. That's the front. So, I'm going to put a couple of these, again, very few, like literally 1 or 2, just because I know that they don't want many sprinkles on, but it just finishes off the board. Right, so that's the front. Okay, right, well, I think we're done because there's nothing else going on it. They wanted only buttercream. Yeah, they didn't like sprinkles and they didn't want any toppings, so that is what we're going for. So I'm going to put this in the corner here, and then I'm going to turn you round for the end of the live, and then you can see what it looks like really up close, because on the camera you don't see any of the paint splatter or anything. So I'll just move my butter and my icing sugar out the way. And any sprinkles. All my sprinkles that I use in this video are from Sprinkler UK, if you're curious. Yeah, and then any others I buy from Tesco's and supermarkets, just because I really like theirs as well. So, my wire's caught. Let's move you forward. Take the non-slip mat off because that doesn't look pretty. And then, right, so if anyone has any last questions, ask them now, because I'm literally going to turn you around and show you the cake and then we'll be finishing. So yeah, if you have any last minute. What's the theme? Honestly, there wasn't really a theme. Sometimes cakes don't have a theme, they just have a colour scheme. A lot of mine, they typically just have a colour scheme. I don't really do themed cakes in terms of like characters, so this one, they wanted the textured effect, as you can see, but they just said that they like red and blue, so they wanted red and blue on the sides, and that was pretty much it. And they don't like sprinkles, so they didn't want loads of sprinkles on it, so I've only put a few for decoration, but they can pick them off if they don't like them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. They didn't want any like chocolate toppings, because they'd sent me a cake that has absolutely no toppings on it. It was one of my cakes, but it had absolutely no toppings on it apart from like the spray, and that was it. So yeah, they wanted a plain cake, so that's what we went for. And that's why I put a bit of like gold, what is it called? Gold leaf on it. That's why I put gold leaf on it, because I wanted to make it a bit more like less plain, and that's the way that I do it usually, is I put things like gold leaf or luster dust, because then it just gives it a bit more, so it's not as plain. Because this, before it had any of the gold paint and the luster dust and the gold leaf, looked very different, I feel, to how it looks now. So yeah, but yeah, there was no particular theme. There isn't always a particular theme. Usually it's just a colour scheme for my cakes. So yeah, right, I'm going to turn you around so that you can see. Just take you off of the tripod, like so. You're plugged in, so I'm going to have to come round. So I'm going to turn you around, and you can see me on the screen there. So, excuse the corkboard there, but this is the front of it. As you can see, I've drawn the little mark down there because it's got nothing that makes it look like the front, so it just means that when I put it in the box, I'll put it in this way. But it's got, I need to bring it a bit further to light. So I need to move my light actually, bear with. There we go. So, it's got the gold leaf on it, it's got the buttercream around the board, it's got a few sprinkles on the top. Oh, I just knocked that. It's got a few sprinkles on the top, and it's got the gold paint, which you can see that's what's kind of sprayed on there, is the gold paint and the gold leaf. So that's all over the sides. So yes, and the front is there. So that is the cake. So yes, that is the finished cake. So it'll be going in the box. I need to decorate some brownies. So I'm going to be doing that afterwards because it will take me probably ages if I do it on live. So whereas I can do it in about 20 minutes off of live. So I've got 2 brownie trays which need to be decorated to go off with the cake. How do you cut a cake like this? So what I would say is you cut it like so, down that way, all the way down to the bottom, and then you put that onto a plate flat, and then you cut it into slices long ways and then half. So it means that you get half the height of the cake, and then you also get multiple slices from each part. So yeah, I just cut it like so. So a 4-inch cake, you would get 3 of those, and then you can cut each piece into 3 or 4 individual slices, and then you can also cut it half the height. So yeah, you need a plate next to it. You don't cut it in triangles, you cut it straight across like that. So you cut it the whole width of the cake. Whereas normally people typically cut like triangular slices, which in turn means that your cake is eventually going to just fall over because it doesn't have the stability to stay stood up. So yeah, if you cut it like that, it's more stable. So yeah, and it's got no dowels in it, no like wooden supports or anything. It's completely supported on its own. So yeah, what was the event? A birthday? I actually don't know. She's got a birthday coming up, which she's ordered for, but this, she said she just wanted a cake. So yeah, I don't think there's actually any like theme to it or birthday or anything. So yeah, I don't think it's actually for anything in particular, which I don't typically do. I either do like weddings or birthdays. But yeah, I don't think this has a particular theme in terms of like event. But yeah, because what she said is, she said, I want one for my son's birthday, which was end of May. But then she said, and I want something before. So then I said, well, what's the theme? And she said, it's not a birthday. And I said, is it for a boy or a girl? And she said, like, neither. So then we went for the blue and red. So I think it's just for like a family get together or something. Because she's got the brownies as well, because she wanted people to try the brownies as well as the cake. So yes, I think it's just literally a little shindig on the weekend. So yeah, seeing friends or something. But yeah, it's not an actual birthday cake, I don't believe. It might be. I might have not read that, but yeah, I don't think it's a birthday cake. So yeah, it's red and blue cake, and that's that, as you can see. So I'm going to box it up, and then I'm going to quickly do the brownies, and then I'm hoping that I'll be done by 9 o'clock, and then I'll be able to film the podcast and then go to bed. So that is my plans for this evening. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me decorate this cake. I am hoping that I might be able to go live next week. During the week, it might not be a actual order. I might just do like a dummy cake for you guys, because a lot of my orders are now in advance. I'm almost booked for May and June for cakes at the weekend, so you'll be getting lots of lives in May and June, like literally Saturday and Sunday, for the whole of those months, because I'm fully booked. But this month is quite quiet, so I have more time, so I might do an extra live. But yeah, I literally can't speak because my throat hurts so much from talking. But yeah, I hope you guys like the live, and I will see you in my next video. I'll be uploading the podcast on Sunday, and then my next video will probably be Tuesday. There might be another one before, but I can't guarantee. If not, it'll be Tuesday. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!